Okay, thank you. I'm proud being here. Are you able to understand me?
Yes.
Because I don't want to sit, I need to stand up when presenting. So, the title of my talk is Artificial Intelligence, is this childhood dreams or adult nightmares? And honestly, this is also partially the story of my life, and you will see why maybe during that talk. Artificial intelligence, and you said that before, is already part of our pop culture. You've seen movies like Star Wars, Star Trek. There are always guys there who are good and guys there who are bad, and it's part of the movie that the good guys or the good artificial intelligences at the end win. But artificial intelligence and artificial creatures are also part of our cultural history. So I think even major human civilization like the Egyptians or the Greek, the Chinese, and even in the Islamic Arabic culture have envisioned artificial beings. And so it's part of our culture. As I said, I would like to give you a little journey. And the journey is about the past, where I would like to show that artificial intelligence was very successful even in the past. I would then go to let's say to today, and to show that artificial intelligence is part of our daily lives now. And last but not least, I would like to have a short outlook into the future. So, start with my childhood dreams. When I was young, I started programming computer games. And you might remember these. I started with these things like Invader and Defender. But yeah, after some time, I got a little bit bored about it. And I needed to have, let's say a bigger challenge. So I tried to bring these kind of table games into the computer. And the idea was not to bring in the, is that okay? Is that is better? Oh, that's great. Because I need to walk when I'm talking. So the basic idea was not really just, let's say, to bring the visual idea of the game on the computer. The idea was more to create an opponent which was able to beat me in that game and to beat any human in that game. And that was a really hard task. And at that time, I needed to recognize that this task was far beyond my own programming capabilities. And as I know now, as today, it was far beyond any capability of any technology which has existed in that time. So that was my childhood dream. AI also had a lot of naive dreams in the beginning. In 1958, Alan Newell said that within 10 years, a digital computer will be the world's chess champion. Honestly, he missed the target about 30 years. So there was 1997 when an IBM computer first time won the chess championship against Garry Kasparov. In 1965, H.A. Simon said that machines will be capable within 20 years of doing any work a man can do. He missed it by 40 years, that's my guess. In 1970, Marvin Minsky said that in from 3 to 8 years, we will have a machine with the general intelligence of an average human. So now, as of today, there's the meaning, let's say that he missed the promise about 50 years. So, but all these guys brought the fresh thinking into computer science. They tackled problems no one has tackled before. They found solutions which have not existed before. And a lot of inventions we have here today in traditional IT systems are laid in the foundation in AI research. For example, navigation systems, speech recognition, and even object-oriented programming. You might heard about Java. is based on a concept which was called frames, introduced by Marvin Minsky, the guy I cited before. Also, workflows and business rules. So there was the myth out there that AI technology has failed, but it's wrong. It was around us every second of our life. Okay, coming to today. My dream is still alive and artificial intelligence is back. So it changed in 2011 when a computer won a live show on TV which was called Jeopardy. It's a game where you get the answer and you need to find out the question. And it was really impressive that a computer for the first time really challenged two human champions and won against them. So why did that happen? I think big data laid the ground. So you might have heard about it, but we are really creating more and more data every day. So the estimation is that in 2016, we will have 4.1 zettabyte. So it's really difficult. You might know about the gigabyte or terabyte, but really what is a zettabyte? It's a number with 21 zeros at the end. So, yeah, to give an example, the whole human mankind needed about 2,000 years to create 5 exabyte of data. In 2011, we altogether needed 2 days. In 2013, we needed about 10 minutes, and my guess is that as of today, mankind is creating that kind of data in a minute or so. So this data really allowed big breakthroughs in image classification. So the question is, you present the computer an image and ask what's inside. So here's a container chip, a motor scooter, a mushroom, or Madagascar cat, or ask a computer to find similar pictures like flowers, elephants, ships, pumpkins, or dogs. So there have been big advantages in 2012. We are all shopping online, and we might have know these online recommendation, which says people who bought this also buying that, and here's my recommendation personally for you. Most of these algorithms are powered by AI. And last but not least, we all have smartphones, and on these smartphones are more and more personal assistants. So they are called Siri from Apple, or Cortana from Microsoft, or Google Now. These are not really intelligent, but these systems get smarter and smarter year by year. So what is the technology which is lying behind that? And it really made it to the press in 2015. So the technology is called deep machine learning. And what's it about? So it's inspired by biological neurons. So the stuff which is in our brain. A neuron consists out of a nucleus and have a lot of different connections, and they are called dendrites. So if they get input, and the input is higher than a certain level, these neurons start firing. And that's what makes our brain. So you can put that as a mathematical function, which is very simple, a weighted sum over the input, and at the end you have a kind of threshold function who decides if this neuron is active or not. Usually, you put them here together into a network where you have an input layer. This is where the signal really goes. You have a little layer, and in the output you have the classification here, for example, of the image. Why it is important? So it solves a very difficult problem. So think about, we would like to classify your pictures. One of kind of the pictures are cats, which are the green ones, and the other ones are the blue ones. If you give a new picture to the computer, he says, is a dog, if it's near here to the blue one, or the blue area, and he says as a cat, it's near to the green area. Most of the technologies which are available are just able to separate these two areas by a straight line. And you can try then, whatever straight line you are putting on there, you will always make mistakes. You might be able here to minimize the number of the mistakes you are making, but with a straight line, it's impossible here to separate these two classes. This problem is called XOR problem. And the great thing about the neural networks is that they don't use straight lines, they are using curves. And by using curves, you're absolutely able here to separate the dog pictures, which are the green ones, from the cat pictures, which are the blue ones. This is what the technology is all about. And to give a real life example, you might have in your car this kind of traffic sign recognition. So you automatically recognize by a camera that there is a speed limit. And this is done by the technology while you separate here the picture into little ones and you give that over several stages. And you finally have the classification like with the cat on the dog and says here's a speed limit on about 50 kilometers. So that means that you have a lot of these neurons and a lot of these layers. Might be millions or even billions of these little neurons which are all connected together. So, in the 90s, there was a big hype about that technology, and I also did my PhD on that. But finally it didn't work. Mainly because some pieces have been missing here to the puzzle. And since 2012, there's a big revival of this technology, mainly because of a paper from Jeffrey Hinton. We have better learning methods. As I said before, we have more data. And also important, we have the computing power. And now I come back to my computer games. So because exactly the graphical power chips who are powering these days all these nice graphic effects can be used here to simulate these kind of neural networks. And they create a speed up of about 20 to 100, here to 100 times faster than you can do with a regular computer. So what is about my childhood dreams as of today? Of course, I'm still playing computer games. And you can buy these little table games like Monopoly for 99 cents in the App Store. And believe me, usually these games will beat you. So because they got really smart. Also, if you're playing a racing game or a sports game or a strategy game, the AI, which means the behavior of your opponent, really becomes more and more important. And if you look at these reviews of these games, very often it's said, I'm impressed by the capabilities of this AI program, or the opponent is too weak and need to be improved. Okay, so we've seen the past and we've seen today. Now what's about the future? Do I get nightmares? Might AI be the final invention of mankind? So definitely we are in the area of smart machines. So in Silicon Valley, there are about 150 startups working on that kind of technology. And all the big IT giants like IBM, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, all are investing in that technology. A few days ago on the Gartner Symposium, which was on October 6th, they said that even IBM is betting the whole company on that kind of technology. So what do we expect when we use that in a broader sense? I have three examples. One is, of course, transportation and self-driving cars and trucks. I think by using that technology, it will definitely change really the shape of our cities and will create a new urban lifestyle. Imagine you sit in a car like you sit in business class in an airplane, or think about it, if we have self-driving cars and we don't need parking spaces, fuel stations or garages, a lot of the infrastructure, so we might be able to create parks or trees instead of that infrastructure. Next topic is medicine, healthcare, and advances in science. If we can use these kind of tools as a magnifier of our own human intelligence, it might create a lot of new advances in scientific progress. So we might get advances in medicine or healthcare. So for example, I mentioned Watson, here the computer from IBM. He's able to cross-reference the symptoms of 1 million cancer patients in just 15 seconds. And last but not least, manufacturing and robotics. So the next generation of robots will be able to work smartly with humans. So robots will be in our garden, will be in our house, and also might be again in healthcare. One question which needs to be asked in that context is, are these systems stealing our jobs? And there have been two major publications about that. One book, which is called Race Against the Machine, was published in 2011 by Eric Bjørnjolfsen and Andrew McAfee. And the second one, The Second Machine Age, was recently published. Probably the answer to that question is yes. So there are papers about, or scientific research about it, that says that about 40 to 60% of the white-collar jobs might be replaced by machine. And whatever can be automated will be automated. And the question, and that is the citation of Stove White, the central question of 2025 will be, what are people for in a world that does not lead their labor and where only a minority is needed to guide that bot-based economy? Honestly, it's far beyond my capabilities to answer that question because I'm more from the technology side, but I think at least it needs to be asked. A citation from the book, which describes the situation really well, and it says in medicine, law, finance, retailing, manufacturing, and even in scientific discovery, the key to winning the race is not to compete against the machines, but to compete with the machines, which means use that as a magnifier of our own intelligence. Okay, so we have seen that AI is an old technology. It started in the 50s. It had big dreams, but it delivered new ideas to computer science, which really influenced a lot of IT systems we used as of today. I explained that recently the whole technology got a real ramp up by a technique which is called deep machine learning, which is inspired by our own brain and how it works. The reason why it works so good is that we have the computing power and we have a lot of data out there which we can use to train that. I explained that we will see a lot of advancements in the future in transportation, in scientific progress, in healthcare, I'm absolutely sure, because think about individualized medicine. You don't need really to go to a third-class doctor if you can have really the best one in the world. So that's really achievements. Also the same in manufacturing. There might be difficulties that a lot of things people do as of today might be automated and given to machines. But finally, there's one question remaining. And the question is inspired by the science fiction movies, which I started in the beginning. So what if we create a real or full artificial intelligence? So because before this, all these examples have been tools which can be used by humans. In computer science, most of the developments grow exponentially. So the number of computers, the user of mobile phones, the social networking thing, it starts very little, and then there is the big ramp up. So the idea behind it, that is, what if we create a system which is so smart that it can use its smartness to improve itself? It's a simple idea. So it programs itself and gets smarter and smarter really day by day. And this is something like a chain reaction. So because once you start it, like with an atomic bomb, you might not be able to control it and really to stop it anymore. And this idea, which was introduced by Nick Bostrom in 2014, really got a big attention in media this and last year. And in fact, a few weeks ago, there was even a hearing on the United Nations about that topic. So it started with a book from James Barrett, and he said, AI, is that the final invention of mankind? Is that the last thing we do? Because after it, there will be no mankind anymore. And Elon Musk, who is the founder of Tesla, who said, we need to be really super careful about that technology. It might be more and more dangerous, maybe than nukes. Or Stephen Hawking, one of the most famous researchers on Earth, he said, artificial intelligence could be a real danger in the not too far future. And Bill Gates recently, who's the founder of Microsoft, said, okay, I'm in the camp of the people who's concerned, and I don't understand why other people are not concerned about it. And if you're interested in that topic, I would recommend to read that book from Nick Bostrom. And it's not about technology, it's just simple arguments. Like I said before, if you start that process and the machine is able to improve itself, it might start a process which can't be stopped. Okay, I come to that point later and also give you my position on that. But before I'm doing that, I would like really to sum up my talk. And as I said, there is a lot of discussion about that, and maybe that's also the reason why I'm talking here as of today. And as a result of that discussion, in the middle of 2015, there was an open letter which was signed by leading researchers in that field, by entrepreneurs, by investors, by politicians, about, and I would like really to cite from that letter. So you can find it in the internet. It's called the FAI, which is the Future Life Science Institute, I guess, on artificial intelligence. And as I said, it was signed by Musk, Hawking, Wozniak, which was one founders of Apple, and Steve Gates. And I just have copied 3 paragraphs out of that, because I think it summarized very well what I wanted to say. So first of all, there is now a broad consensus that AI research is progressing rapidly and that its impact on society is increasing in the future. I agree with that point. The potentials of that technologies are huge. And the reason is simple, since everything that the civilization has to offer is a product of human intelligence. Of course, we cannot predict what we might achieve when this human intelligence is magnified by these artificial intelligence tools, but as a vision, the eradication of disease and the end of poverty might not be too far-reaching goals. Many economists and computer science agree that there's valuable research to be done to maximize really the economic benefits of artificial intelligence, but also really here to look on the downsides, which might be increased inequality and unemployment. So, coming to the end of my talk, I'm more on the science side. I'm not on the fiction side. I do not believe that there will be some really artificial intelligence in the near future, because what I see now is that we have tools. So computer programs which are executed, which seems to be smart, but they are not on the one side. But being in that field for now 25 years, can I stand up here and say this will never happen? I'm not. So because really this argument about once it happened and it starts improving, it's like a chain reaction, you can't stop it anymore. So I think it's very important that we start really discussing about it. Start about really discussing about the economic benefits, the maybe the not so good parts of this kind of technologies, look on what is going on with the society, but also do some more research to maybe, let's say, control that kind of process. So even if I don't believe that there will be a Terminator or a Data or a Hall, but that's me personally, I think as a mankind, we somehow need the kind of really ethics of this kind of technology. I started with culture and movies, and I will end with culture. But being at the World Islamic Economic Forum, we all need to be aware that how fast these advancements are and how fast the technology is moving. A lot of that technology laid in the foundations of great mathematicians, researchers, and scientists who lived during the golden age of Islam. And what you see here is a geometric pattern which is called quasi-crystals, and it was exactly developed during that time of history. Okay, thank you very much. If you're interested in that topic, you are invited to follow me on Twitter. My account is @Stefan Wess, and you get regular posts on that topic. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wess. I've got a few questions for you, but I'm going to save that for the Q&A session. We're going to proceed with our next presenter, Encik Azhar Kassim Mustapha, who's not only the CEO of Nervosis Malaysia, but he was also a research specialist at the Multimedia University of Malaysia, where he led a team conducting advanced research as well as development work funded by the Matsushita Corporation of Japan. So whenever you're ready, Encik Azhar, dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. All right. I think we have here pretty good explanation from Dr. Stefan. Okay, so it's a very good overview. Talks about the past, the current, and the future. Actually, we pretty much on the same stand. We actually don't believe all the myth that being created, because we've seen it out there that you cannot stop technology. It's going to replace some jobs. But human itself has the power to adapt to a new environment, right? But I'm going to proceed first to my first presentation, just to actually move on. Okay, the first thing I want to actually talk today, not so much into the technical terms, but more on the theme of this forum, which is more on the economic and economic growth. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples how this can be done, And hopefully you can actually take it back and think about how AI can actually improve about your project, your future initiative, and so on, right? Okay, if you really look from my slide, actually, what I'm talking about is, I always like to imagine this AI is this small, tiny brain, right? It lives everywhere that you can see. It's in your phone, okay? It's in the TV, it's in the camera, it's everywhere, right? That's actually a very simple analogy to explain to everyone, okay? But this simple, tiny brain can only do simple, tiny stuff. It's not going to do a lot of things, but when you combine it, it can do great stuff, okay? So just imagine like, you know, you're driving a car, you can talk to your car, right? But then you're holding the steering actually tells you that if you are actually digressing or, you know, or you're doing something wrong, okay? So let's look into the AI itself. The good thing about AI is actually, with this advent of technology, you actually expand the scope of inputs, right? Last time it only works on papers, then it goes into file and diskettes. After that, it gets a bit complicated, you put it into database. Now, everything that we see and we touch are the inputs for processing, right? You see right now what I'm talking, okay? If someone actually translate what I speech and put a piece of translation software, everyone can understand it, right? We don't need actually, right now we have a translator out there, okay? I think probably in 20, 30 years, or probably 5 years in the future, you probably had a headphone. The headphone has some intelligence to actually translate what I'm talking about right now in real time. That's going to happen actually. Okay, so what we're talking about right now, first, is the input that is got expanded, right? So let's say we talk about records, okay? Last time we talked about databases, okay? Nowadays, all right, you have public forums, you have blogs, you have social medias. Everyone is screaming in social media about their problems, which I don't quite understand actually. You have a problem, you solve it yourself. You don't tell the world that you have a problem, all right? But this is happening actually. This is happening, all right? You go to the restaurant, you don't like the restaurant so much with the waitress, you scream to the world about how bad the restaurants are. It's only one person, but you scream about it, okay? Now, if you really think about it, okay, all this conversation, this is what I call digital conversation, right? It's actually public, okay? You can actually put this conversation into the AI engine and get something out of it. It's actually possible already, right? In fact, if you really look around, whatever that you type in Facebook actually is being tracked, and they actually know your profile, okay? If you really want to be safe nowadays, don't use Facebook, don't use phones, don't use anything. But that's quite impossible actually, okay? So this is the advent of AI, because of that simple technology that it actually can able to take input from anywhere, right? We talk about perception, okay? You talk about perception. Back then, it's just a simple camera, take videos and record it. Nowadays, human, if you notice carefully, everyone always has signature, even the way we walk, even the way we dress, okay? Even the way we talk, there is a signature out of it. So just imagine, okay, you put this camera in the airport, all right? You have this probably millions, not millions, I can say thousands records of movement signature of criminals, right? The way they walk from the back, they know the probability that this person is a criminal. You know at what length you can actually have a very extensive surveillance, right? Because this is possibly done with AI. So I'm talking about perception. I talk also about voice, right? So let's say you actually go to some remote place, okay? You want to actually record, or you want to actually focus on their life. The best thing is actually, let's say they go to one kedai mama, okay, or some cafe, they just hang it there and so on. If you record everyone, you put a recorder on the table, you might be able to understand the marketing trends in that town itself, just by recording. You don't have to type anything, right? You can do that already. Okay, of course, it's a violation of privacy or something like that, but it is possible, right? Same thing as measurements, okay? Let's say you talk about toxicity, right? So you might be able to detect certain kind of measure in the toxicity to predict future plague and so on. But of course, you can couple this input with the talk in the social media, in the news, even from the image, okay? I think there is this company, I don't quite remember, they have to give money to the poor. What happens to ensure that these people is poor, they zoom your house from the satellite and make sure it's actually a house that is not well built, right? So these are something that we actually need to consider, because with the AI, you are talking about the inputs that are billions everywhere. At the moment you speak, it's actually an input already. At the moment you walk, it's an input to the AI engine already. So this actually have given, coupled with the big data, this is, in fact, it's possible to get everywhere that we want, okay? I talk about learning, so this is what I'm talking about. The small brains actually work together to input to the big brains, right? So this is what I mean by learning, right? In essence, this small brain is actually learning, right? So, for example, the movement signature, right? After understanding few movements in nature, they might be able to predict of you're a criminal or what kind of person, okay? Because they are learning about people, right? The last thing that we want to talk about surveys, right? Last time when we talk about surveys, you actually have a human, okay? When you do qualitative surveys, you actually interview them and they answer, right? They answer in certain way, and you have to write it, and then they give their expert opinions. Nowadays, just imagine, right? If you want to really do quantitative surveys, right? I'm talking right now, Dr. Stefan has talked. It's part of the input that you can do for certain quantitative surveys, right? You can just actually do with it. And the best part of it, if you actually have so many inputs that people from the conversation, you can actually have a faster quantitative surveys result than the qualitative surveys than the quantitative surveys. What I mean is, when we talk, the problem is last time there is human needs to actually analyze and go through all this, but now you can do some simple interview, or even the interview is not known for some kind of service, you can actually get some result out of it, right? So with this inputs that is expanding, it's also give rise to the big data that is actually currently running. And the best part of it, okay, I always like to look, AI is something that is a tool. Okay, we all agree it's just a tool, all right? We create them. Why are we a slave to them after a while? This is something not right, actually. Okay? We actually design the algorithm. After a while, we become the slave to algorithm. Something is not correct there. But anyway, so we got to use AI to expand the way we think, to look really far, okay, to go beyond certain boundaries, all right? For example, let's say, right, if you want to actually understand about financial sentiment in certain countries, right, you might be able to read, okay, if you are human, you probably can read about 50 documents a day, 50 sites or 50 blogs a day. But if you use AI, you can go probably millions of documents in few seconds, right? But what you do with the result, okay, once they have been able to, what we mean by classify means something like, is this about oil? Is this about health, and so on. Once the AI classify the documents, you take that result and actually you think further, okay? So it is very bad that we actually outsource our thoughts to software. Then after we get the result, we don't want to think anymore, okay? The better thing is we take that result, right, of the simple thinking, and we go beyond that. Okay, so today I'm going to actually give a certain example on how we apply AI for growth. All right. To tell you the truth, I've never done this. We actually do in a different market, but I like to share how this is possible. Right. So for the guys who are in economy to see how we use AI to get a better result, to actually do better economic planning and so on. Right. So I'm going to talk about two things. So one is on education. One is on healthcare, very, very specific example, how we actually take AI to actually get better planning and so on, right? So let's say, for argument's sake, we are trying to find the healthcare outlook in Malaysia, okay? Or don't say Malaysia, let's say some country, okay? So there are probably 14 states, so we want to know each state what people think about healthcare. Okay, you can start with surveys as normal, as if you would like to do it, right? You can actually pay people to do it, but it can be very expensive, right? But as I told you earlier, okay, the inputs are everywhere. Use it, okay? So what we can do is actually we start to go into records. Records is fine in the database, so you might be able to go through it because it's all recorded. But then we can also go into digital conversations. Well, the blogs, the forums, we just go through it, all right? The thing is, there's in order for you to go through it, there is some kind of mechanism to make sure it's about healthcare. It's from that state. Of course, I'm not going to discuss the detail how to do it, but let's assume AI is able to do it, right? So you actually hear complaints and so on just from the public side, especially social media. So one thing about social media, I think in general, people like to complain. That's the problem. So you have to actually adjust it. It's not a true picture overall because you don't hear people say good things about the country. They say bad things most of the time. Okay, so you got to kind of scale it actually. You have to really, really make sure this is actually the reality, but it's a good start. Right? If you have at least 20, 30 blogs rambling about certain things, it's a good indication something is happening, right? So you can actually take the inputs. What you want to do with the inputs is actually for your training. Okay? This is called sample data, all right? So you actually try to get as much as you want. The more data, the better, right? So one thing about healthcare here, okay. Sorry. Okay, there are two things I want to actually stress on this slide. One of it is classifications, right? This is the work of AI. The main thing about this technique is you have to have subject matter experts. It means that you need to have humans to actually train the system. Right? So you got to do it actually. I mean, this brain basically does not know anything. You just give a sample and train them. That's what it does. So once you get the inputs, right, what you do is you have human actually labeling the inputs, saying that, right, okay, this is about disease, and what is the outlook is quite negative. This is about drugs. This is about prescriptions, right? So you got to have human doing it, and this work is normally quite expensive because you got to train them. Okay, once you have the training, it's okay, but you got, just imagine you have to go to every blogs, get that blogs, have the human expert read it and say, look, this is about something, this is about ambulance, this is about anything, right? So once you actually label them, I just call label, but it's more like classifying it, then you can actually take all the inputs and you divide into training and test sets, and you actually put it into your AI engine, okay? So there are many techniques, or there are many algorithms you can use, but I think the best way to do it is you just hire a tech company to do it. I mean, let them figure it out. Or, a researcher to figure it out. But the hard part about this is sometimes you got to understand, there are many techniques, why the technique exists. It doesn't mean that most of the time you have to go to do neural networks. This is what happened, I think, previously, before deep learning. everyone was trying to use neural network for the intelligence, but most of the time it's not needed. So you got to be very careful on what kind of techniques you are using, right? So once you have the training model, now you have the brain itself, okay? So the brain itself, you can actually have the real feed, okay, now you feed it into certain websites and try to see what it classifies, okay? That's actually the whole journey, right? And then you move on. You go from one state to another, to another, to another, right? So this is just one of the processes that is possible, right? And you might get a result like this, okay? This is probably just for one state, right? And this is not a real case, okay? I'm just giving an example. Please don't say this is coming from a real case, okay? So if you really look carefully, all right, these are what we call classifications, okay? These classifications depends on the subject matter experts, okay? They might come up with different classifications, but again, these are given by the subject matter experts, okay? So you can see carefully, all right, 20% of time people are talking about service level, all right? Most of the time there's some kind of indicatives whether it's positive or negative, but I won't talk about it here, right? Just to say, look, 20% of the time this is bad, right? And 20% of the issues in that state is about diseases, common, contagious, deadly, all right? Maybe about the prescription is very hard to get, right? You see all these complaints and so on. Okay, so once you have all this classification, right? So I would like to step back. See, now you want to find out what is out there, and what you do is you go through all the records that is available, but then you add certain extra steps where you also look into digital conversations to add into what is going on on the ground. Okay. So once you have this, okay, you can come up with certain action plan, right? So probably you have certain budget. You will say, look, I will put 20% of my budget to actually do prevention management for the disease. Okay, you have a better idea what's going on, right? Because imagine if you do quantitative survey, everyone has to go and interview people and so on. And most of the time, people are not honest about it, right? The best part of it, people are very honest about themselves in social media for whatever reason. Okay, so you can do certain action plan, and the best part of it, once you implement it, you can get the feedback, and you will see that if your AI is really good, okay, your action plan gives an impact, all right? But if you find out your action plan that is not good, the feedback is not good, you might need to retrain the AI. That's how it goes actually, okay? That's how it goes. And you can get to a lot more industries, a lot more areas, the same process happens, right? Let me give you an example, okay? Let's say Siri, iPhone, right? The first time it came to Malaysia, you know they're not that good with Malaysian English. You know about that? They have to spend money to pay people like us, people like Malaysian like me, who are not very good with English actually, to actually talk and train them. Okay, it happens. And then they have to go to China. Of course, most people, maybe they have to speak dual language, Chinese and English. So my point is, training takes a big factor in actually doing a good AI job. All right, whatever algorithm you choose, all right, training is still needed. Okay, because if you really think about it, this is a brain. I don't know what to do. You got to train them. Even your kids, is it? You cannot let your kids just learn by itself. You still have to train them. Your staff, you still have to train them. The same thing with AI, all right? All right, the next thing I want to actually give the potential of AI is about learning without boundless factors. I talked too long, is it? Okay. This is actually for another techniques that I call segmentation. right? So just now we use human to actually train the AI. In this technique, you actually don't use human. You just chuck the data into the engine and hopefully you get a miracle. That's what it is actually. Okay? So I give you an example here. Let's say you want to segment underperformed students, right? So you see, from what I noticed, the underperformed students, the impact is the result, but what causes it, there might be a few reasons. Okay, so what you do is, again, the same way, okay, you decide, okay, now I'm not going to look into just the students, I'm going to look into their parents, I'm going to look into their friends, their neighbors, where they are, and so on, right? I'm just going to study it, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. Okay, so what you do is you actually get the subjects, you get their hobby, how long they read, and so on, and then you actually get the parents, and you get their income bracket, and so on. And what happens then, you got to do certain scaling, all right? So most of the time you got to say, let's say the income bracket is high, low, or medium, and whatnot, okay? So once you have this data, right, you actually chuck into the AI engine, and you got some algorithm, all right? So I want to show you the result, okay, just to get the idea what's going on. You might get like this, right? This, again, this is not the real data, but what you can see here is, right, you can get certain groups or circles, all right? Okay, now I see this independent circle, all right? What happened, the subject spend more than 10 hours by itself. They have less than 3 friends, and the interaction with the parents is less than 2 hours, right? So then he finds out that his income bracket is high. So once you have this segment, all right, you can come up with certain action plan, right? You might want to have certain campaign and to see whether it's good or not, right? Same as you might find about hostile circle, right? Maybe the subject spend more than 10 hours in front of TV. The manner, the parents, they always shout at home, okay? You can get this actually. If you ask your kids, they actually tell the truth. Okay, so you can get all this, and one thing that is very good is you actually find something, and you know something that you don't know. That's my point. You can go on and trying to actually get the circles that actually affect the future. Okay, so again, when I talk about all this technique, one of the issue is data gathering. It's very expensive. The second part is data quality, right? If you look at the blog, someone who said, is he credible or not? Okay, you got to really think about it, okay? But sometimes someone very credible also say some not nice things, isn't it? So it's very difficult. But you got to actually put some kind of measurement to actually do some kind of qualitative analysis, all right? So this is just another addendums. Dr. Stefan has talked about it, but if you really think about it, you can actually give AI to do first pass quality control. For example, in loan processing, instead of have humans actually process and try to analyze the loan, you can actually give to AI, they can actually speed it up and actually get it and tell you the risk, okay? So now I'm going to talk a bit in terms of job replacement. Okay, again, I'm actually at the same side with Dr. Stefan. Okay, it's going to happen. Okay, I think you cannot really hide it. Actually, you might come up with certain policy and whatnot, but it's going to happen. Just like in the industrial age. Okay, some job will be replaced, but I'm very optimistic about it. Okay, because if you look in the industrial age, right, when actually some machines replace humans' jobs, they become a bit creative. They create a new scope of work, new skills. They are innovative. In fact, when you talk job replaced plus a job created, you have actually a net job creations, right? And the same as human potential, I do believe that since we actually create them, why you have to be slave to them? Well, of course, this is just an argument. It's not like a true statement. And the most important part is education, right? Because if education does not address the need to always learn, so when things like this happen, and we don't have enough people to want to learn more, then there won't be any innovation. There won't be any new job scope, all right? So education is very important, but the challenge is for the less educated one, because I think their job will be replaced first, and they probably have less skill to learn faster and so on. This is something that needs to be addressed. Okay. Some other issues is about privacy versus security. Okay, as I told you, all right, AI can learn about potential threats very well. So imagine, you put your camera in the airports, it can actually detect everyone that walks through. You don't have to go through that machines anymore. I think it is possible already, but it needs some time. Okay, and whatever you talk, whatever you spend, it's all recorded. The only way is to get out of the digital age. Okay, but the problem is right now, all your videos, are exposed. Do you want it to actually? Do you want them to be your big brother, so-called? Right? So those are the issues, and I think currently there are a lot of acts that actually try to address that. For example, Personal Data Protection Act. What it does, if you notice carefully, when you give information to an online shopping, you get to get their consent and so on. But if you really ask me, this is not enough. We need to do something more. Okay. All right. The last part of my my slide, right? Whatever it is, okay. When we talk about AI and Islam, all right, I like to actually refer to this verse in Surah Al-Jathiyah, right? And has subjected to you all that is in the skies and all that is in the earth. It is all as a favor and kindness from Allah, right? Verily, it is in it are signs for groups of people who think deeply. Okay, you see, I told you earlier in the beginning of the slide, okay, AI helps us to think really far, okay? So, with this verse, I was also thinking, look, even with the Muslims community, we should embrace AI, okay? Because if we really embrace it, we can think further and try to understand its science, its creations, okay? So that's the final thoughts about AI in Islam, because I think a lot of literature on it, but just to give my thought on it, we shouldn't actually be scared of it. We should embrace it, and if you really, I believe, you use it more, we actually will see something. Okay, this is me. All right, you can actually contact me. This is my company. This is my Facebook. You can actually look into my website and so on if you have any more questions. But please do come back to me for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Encik Azhar. So in conclusion, both Dr. Wess as well as Encik Azhar, they are for artificial intelligence. There is the potential there. So with that, I will open the floor up for any Q&A. Okay, we've got a gentleman at the back. We'll start off at the back. Just don't know if we can rush off. Yeah.
Hi, greetings, gentlemen. Really enjoyed your presentation. My question is for Dr. Stefan. So, like you mentioned early on, whenever there's been a new technology that enters, whether it's the industrial revolution, etc., there comes up the argument is, this is going to help the human race sort of up their game, and so everyone's going to end up with better jobs. So, for example, the menial labor jobs are now going to be done by robots, for example, and so now humans will be running those robots. But now what's happening with the exponential growth of, AI and also robotics is humans are becoming obsolete. And so when we're talking about, economic sustainability, for a large population on Earth, they will essentially not have a viable means of earning an income simply because of the fact that AI and robotics does it at a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what they can never compete with. So given that is the future, what is the future of this? As in, how do you balance between, do we want this, like, how do we, especially for the people who it's difficult for them to make an income. This is threatening them most importantly, while it may not threaten other more educated people in comparison. Thank you.
Yeah, first, thank you for the question, because it's really a big question. So if we go back and we look at the industrial revolutions, and we had some of them, not only the steam engine, there had been more in between. So I think what is one reality, even if there is still a divide in the world, so every revolution brought some progress in general. But now, this time, it might be a little bit different. So, and that's why I'm so pressing that point. It's beyond really my own capabilities really to answer that question, but my feeling, it's different from going to steam engine, to oil engine, to, I don't know, atomic power, and so on, every revolution. This time it might be much more challenging, because you said it exactly in your words. So my personal theory about that is why, and this is really my personal view, why do people really need to work for their living? Why might there not be economy where we all can be painters, musicians, and spend our time on other things than being a taxi driver or manufacturer or whatever? So that at least is my very positive vision on that, but I totally understand that there might be also a dark vision about that. And that's why I like that these kinds of discussion now start really to, I don't know, that we have a global discussion on that. So as I said a few weeks ago, there was a hearing in the United Nations, and I think we need to really discuss that. And as said, I have a hope and a positive view on that, but I also can understand that not everybody is sharing that vision. So I absolutely agree with everything you said.
Next question. You have someone from the front.
Good afternoon. It's for Dr. Stefan. And Doctor, just a few parts in my questions. First of all, I'd like to say, in terms of what might and might not happen, at one time we thought the Earth was flat. Eventually, we knew it's not.
Yes.
And those who thought it was round thought they were ridiculous, right? The second part is, from history, we have realized that the species that is strongest, not necessarily physically, mentally as well, tend to annihilate the weaker ones. In terms of, even right now, we do that to animals that are around us. A better example would be when the Europeans went to America, and what happened to the Red Indians.
Yep.
So would not that happen, and isn't it a possibility that this can happen to us as well?
I think it's very similar to the question as before. I said, same answer as before. I think, personally, I don't believe that, but I also see the danger in that. So as said, I think at that point in time, the technology is far away on that of we fear. So we are much closer to the question of the gentleman before, because to replace a taxi driver or manufacturing worker, I think that's really close. That is not so far away. But to have the vision of a kind of Terminator who erases the human race, it's a little bit far in the future, at least from my point of view. But in general, as said, it's important that we do that kind of discussions. So It's like a chain reaction. It's like the atomic bomb. Once it's created, it will change everything. And nobody is able to promise when this will happen. It might be even tomorrow, or in 100 years, or 10 years, or 1,000 years. Nobody knows. But when this process has started, we need to find methods how to deal with it. Because maybe this is the next evolution of mankind, and exactly it's happening what you said. But personally, I believe, and I'm with him, there's a lot of potential in the human race. And we always tried and even worked out really to get the positive things out of technology.
Yeah, just adding to that, I think one of the, this is my personal opinion, pragmatic ways is actually to maybe estimate in 5 to 10 years what's going to happen, right? Because I think job replacement will happen. No, it's not going to be in a major wave, but slowly. In what sector? Which industry? You got to be able to see that. And if you are able to see that, then you plan for it. That means you might, as I told you earlier, you might plan for the education. You might think about the logistics of that. Just think about it. So when we prepare for it, I think the future will look more optimistic. The problem is we actually notice this will happen, which I think will happen. It's not going to be a big wave, but we don't do anything about it. That's actually the danger. Yeah. So, so when you talk about economic policy and whatnot, I would believe that if you start seeing AI in 5 to 10 years, not 20 or 30 years, you should be able to predict it based on the current technology, right? You can actually see it. Self-driving car, right? Very intelligent video camera that actually detect. Actually, it has already, if I'm not mistaken, there is a technology like the helicopter. They actually bring this video cam, and then when they walk through to the terrorist camp, they can actually sense where is the real guy they are targeting. Just based on the way they walk, it's there already actually. So the best way to actually address this is to prepare, not to really be scared about it, because if you're scared about it, then we cannot go anywhere. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, but what I think is really important, that if we would have done this discussion 4 years ago, a lot of people would say, crazy. What is this discussion about? Now in 2015, we see people like Hawking, Steve Jobs. So we are now initiating a global discussion, which I think is really necessary to do so. And it is not completely crazy. So it is not there, but at least we all need to understand it, and we need to, how can I say, to deal with it and really discuss the consequences seriously, and not just really put it aside and say, okay, I don't know, this is science fiction from the last century. No, it's not. It is really something which is going on, and which is going on really today, and not in 50 or 1,000 years. But I like your sentence. So what did you say? To know what we didn't know before?
Yeah.
So that's exactly the point. So we're going where no one has been before. That's exactly what's happening now.
Questions in front? And then you can pass over the mic to your colleague at the left.
Thank you.
Right.
Good afternoon. I'm Lumka Sibanywani from South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal province. In my country, there are various laws which protect job losses. How do you find the balance? How do countries now find the balance between accepting artificial intelligence, not getting left behind with what's happening in the world, and also not getting your workforce affected in a big way? Thank you.
Oh, again, a very, very difficult question. maybe somebody out of the audience is able to answer that, because I'm, as said, I'm a computer scientist, not an economist. So it's really hard to, yeah, for me personally, to answer that question. So, but also give that a very positive view. So what I also think, the more things are digital now, the more important are the analog handcrafted things. So we might see cars which have no electronic and just analog. So the more we have all this automation, the more worse is for handcrafting. So there are also theories, if we talk about job losses, so who will be less affected? These are the people in the social area, so the nurses, the teachers, the kindergarten people. So social jobs might really become much more, how can I say, social, society potential than as of today. Because if you can automate a manufacturing process of a car and you don't need a taxi driver, an artist or nurse might be in the view of the society much more worse really than before. And that's also a very positive view, and we see that. So if you look on the design of goods, for example, watches, so there are the cheap automated watches and there are the handmade Swiss watches, and you pay 1,000,000 times more for the handmade watches than for the automated manufactured watches. And I'm absolutely sure that that also will happening to society and to industry. So the standard goods will be automated, will be cheap, will be mass production, or even, I like that example with the light, because I think economy is really changing in not really selling goods, but selling services. So don't sell the washing machine, but the clean clothes. That's really, it's really a global trend. So that will be cheaper, but my true belief that handmade work and personal, I don't know, personal services will still be really on top and will become much more expensive than as they are today.
Adding to that, what I would personally think, well, since we are both computer scientists, so we couldn't really answer the questions, but just a suggestion, you might actually go into detail of certain industry in your country. You really look into the sector and try to see how AI will actually change the landscape. And you might get a clear picture. I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you talk about economic policy, the economists need to be able to see what we see, because we're not there to design the social policy and whatnot, but the economists need to understand what we can understand so that they can see the future, actually, right? Because when we talk about people who are less educated, people with problems getting jobs and so on, they are actually social issues. And I think the best way is actually to really look deeply into the current status, look into the industries, and estimate for each industry what's going to happen with the effect of AI, if 5 to 10 years actually. And again, as I say, just prepare for it. And you might want to change the landscape, you might want to do something about it, but the most crucial thing is to be able to, for the economists to see through the whole thing. They don't have to understand in detail what the technology is all about, but the impact of AI itself is more than enough.
My name is Mohammed Qutub, engineer and postgraduate student at UIA. Thanks to both of you. If I may just go back to the pseudo-philosophical discussion that we were having, I totally understand that to a large extent these types of technological innovations and developments are unstoppable. So it's coming, prepare for it, as Doctor said. However, to think maybe a little bit outside of the box, maybe the problem is in portraying it precisely that way, as an inexorable development that is coming no matter what. So when the atomic bomb was brought up, obviously the technology was developed, the bomb was created, voila. But now we're talking about non-proliferation. We created it, we don't want it, go back.
Exactly.
So we don't want to get to that step or that level, again. So maybe the solution is to not think about it as if it's something inexorable and try to do something about it now, or do something from a regulatory standpoint that can prevent the coming danger of AI.
I absolutely agree, and that's why I said it's important that we have this discussion, and to have it up front, and to have people who are frontmen for that kind of discussions. But there's a difference between the two questions of the two gentlemen here. So because I still believe in one thing, that we will have the self-driving taxis, and that will change our urban lifestyle really, really completely. And there are so many benefits out of that. So really think about no parking spaces, no parking garages, no fuel stations, no repair shops, no traffic jams. So it's really appealing if we accept that it's not necessary to own a car, because by fingertip you can get one, it drives you, and we all save a lot of time. So this is one thing where I agree is really difficult really to stop these things. On the other hand, and this was the question of the second gentleman here in the front, I absolutely agree. And that's why I said we need to bring that discussion, and they had it in Davos, they had it in the United Nations, we have it here. We need really, really to think about it. And this analogy with the atomic bomb is true, but on the one hand, there's also divide, because some nations have that bomb, other nations don't. Is that really fair? So it is, but I really like the analogy.
Because there also,
and that was exactly my point.
We can say, it's very positive. There's atomic energy, electricity through, nuclear energy and so on. So there are always positives and negatives. And as you spoke, Prof, when we talk about it from an Islamic perspective, the idea is always try to increase whatever advantages you can take from this technology and reduce the disadvantages or the harms.
Yeah, but you might have heard that we decided in Germany that we stopped the production of atomic energy, and because really the government decided it is too dangerous really to do that after really what happened in Japan, and we really have a movement into green energy like solar, wind, and so on, because there was a broad understanding in the whole German society that really the costs and the dangers are not worth really the outcome. And in fact, the energy costs are going really like that currently. That is then the disadvantage. But in generally, I absolutely agree with what you said. And that was partially the point of the presentation. Yes.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add, when you talk about atomic energy, there is a substitute, right? So you can actually choose another energy. But with AI, it's just a technology. What is the substitute? It's just a technology.
Yeah, that's also dangerous, because in Germany we decided to go back from atomic energy to coal energy, which we really heard about the air quality, which might not really be the cleverest decision ever made. So you have one devil and you fight this with another devil. That's maybe not clever, but I agree.
One more question on the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for both of you to very enlightening presentation. I definitely agree with my partner here. I thought exactly the same. Why don't we stop it? So if it's so scary, but of course, how can you stop it if it has so many benefits on the other hand? But on the same line of thought, my question, sorry, I didn't mention, I'm from Argentina, I'm a diplomat in Kuala Lumpur. My question is, who is producing artificial intelligence? Again, on the same line of his question is, who are the atomic producers, who produces the 5 countries or the 7 or the 8, because today you can know who is producing that. And actually, as he rightly mentioned, is the whole international community now trying to stop the 5 or the 7 of the 8. And again, will this be the same case? Who are the clearly owners? Where are the centers, the big centers producing artificial intelligence? That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the research and the doing is really happening really in Silicon Valley. But also, to be really fair, a lot of the companies put in these kind of ethics. So Google, for example, put in strict rules on the use of that kind of technology. A lot of the major really companies, I said Bill Gates, Wozniak, and so on, they are aware of the problem and the discussion needed. So I'm not so really pessimistic about it, but as always, you need to have a common ethic, a global understanding, and more research on how to control it and
sorry
bring
to
it
add something, but to governments that gives power, and then who will control them?
Yep, I absolutely agree, but also to be fair, all the discussion have been brought up by technology people. So by scientists, not by... There are also venture capitalists. They are clearly stating, okay, what do we do with 7 billion people on Earth? What is the answer? And to be honest, guys, we need to talk about it, and we need to do it now. So it's not really that it really comes from the people or it comes from the politicians. It really comes out of that corner. And I said Bill Gates, and the other one, which really makes me a little bit, well, let's feel me better, because at least they try it. So it's not that they go into that blindly. They try to apply the procedures and the ethics on that, and at least it's a start. And we will see how that goes. But there are not nobodies who are now starting that discussion, and they have really the power to change it and put it in the right direction. And I think that's a good starting point, really, from my point of view.
Okay, I guess we can conclude our session. Thank you so much to all those who posed questions, and thank you so much once again to our presenters today, Dr. Wess as well as Enchi Azhar. Perhaps if you have any questions again that you would like to pose to them, I'm not sure if you guys are still going to be sticking around, but yeah, that you can go to them for a one-on-one. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Very enlightening session indeed.